It's come alive. Good evening, Tony Dottino, doing my live with Tony here on Wednesday. And we're up to June the 16th, and the days are just zipping by. Excuse me. It is June. Better look at June the 15th. My goodness, I better look at the calendar. I'm losing my days and what day of the week it is. So June 15th, it's Wednesday, and here's my live with Tony. Had a session today at a community center today, Summerport, Florida. It's in the Windermere area of Florida, Winter Garden, and had about 30 people that attended to learn about memory, what we call Memory 101. Some of the fundamentals of memory, that first, that you can improve your memory. There are skills that you can learn. There are mnemonic techniques. One that we did today was the Roman room, or the loci method. Some people call it the journey. But in any case, great response from the team that was there. Had a real enjoyment, a lot of great questions, some good dialogue. This was a group of people that were on the ball, and they had a very sharp interest in how do we improve our memories and what are some things that we can engage and be with. It was initially scheduled to be an hour, and I got so enthused with this group. We were actually almost there for an hour and 45 minutes, and the amazing part was nobody left. So people are interested in learning about memory. They're learning about how to improve it. They're worried about cognitive functioning and how do I make sure as I get older I don't lose it. And are there things that I can do to make a difference? And the answer to all of those questions are there are skills that you can learn. You want to be able to practice. There are things you can take control over, and there's hope for everybody. And so we did some basics in terms of memory principles, and then we went for the Roman room, or the loci method. And I started with a speaker in the front of the room. They had set up an audio speaker so they can hear me in terms of talking in the whole room. So we went from the speaker to a light fixture that was on a post, and we talked about the post, and we looked at, so it was the speaker, the light fixture, then a column. Then we went and looked out at a window. Next to the window, there was a sofa up against the wall. Over to the right of the sofa was a plant. As we came around to the back of the room, there was a table that is sitting at the back of the room. And then as we came back towards the 7, 8 o'clock positions, we got to see a water cooler. And next to that, we saw a thermostat, a couple of light switches. That then brought us to a counter that brought us back to the front of the room where there was a high top. And of course, there was the screen. So there were our 13 objects. I numbered them. I actually went in advance and we put Post-it notes on them from 1 to 13. Now, why did I pick 13? Well, some of our USA memory champions and memory athletes have learned to use anchors and cut them in quarters. So with 13 anchors, cutting them into quarters, into 4 sections, they can get 13 anchors into 4 quarters times 4. 13 times 4 is 52. They can use those anchors to remember the order of a deck of cards. So I picked those 13 today and then had a list of 13 words. So we started with the word astronaut. We talked about a tree. We're going to put a frying pan. We had textbooks. After the textbooks, we had a dog, some baseballs. After we had baseballs, we turned around and had a guitar. From the guitar, we had a candle, some gasoline, some newspapers, some jackets, and then a symphony orchestra. So now what did we do with that? Well, we went to the speaker, number one, we had the speaker, and from the speaker, we had an astronaut. And this astronaut, from my story, was basically telling the room about a space launch. And so we had an astronaut talking through the speaker, telling us about a space launch here that we could go outside and watch here in Florida. We went from the space launch to this light fixture, and wouldn't you know, and the light fixture and coming out of it was a tree. And like, boy, we have lots of trees here in this development. It was beautiful landscaping. So there was a tree coming out of the landscaping here, which happened to be a light fixture. As we went down to the post, wouldn't you know, somebody had put up against the post a frying pan that we could take outside and use for our barbecue. Well, as we went around and we looked on our next anchor, which was window, the window had a pair of athletic shoes, right? Somebody was running right through the window and they were running out into the athletic area and they were going to play tennis on the tennis court that was there. And so we had athletic shoes right there. And we did have some students in the room and they were sitting on the couch with their textbooks. So the word was textbooks, and they were studying for some tests that they have to have from their textbooks. And the next one was easy. It was a plant. And the word was dog. What was this dog doing with the plant? It certainly wasn't eating it, but we had a dog over by the plant kind of sniffing it out. As we came around to the back of the room, we had a table, and on that table were a bunch of baseballs that some of the kids were waiting to get access to so they could go out and play. And then we needed, obviously, a water cooler to be able to get some water after we sweated up. It was 97 degrees in Orlando today, and so we had a water cooler right next to us. But wouldn't you know, somebody was playing music on their guitar at the water cooler. So they needed a little refreshment there as they were singing and playing their guitar. And then right next to that was a thermostat. And wouldn't you know, somebody put a candle under the thermostat, which was raising the temperature to even more than what the outdoor temperature was. So it was over 100 degrees at this candle. But to the right of that were a couple of switches, and those switches turned on some gas-powered lamps. So we had some gasoline at the light switches there, and they were turning on the lights in the room. We had gas light for this meeting today, using gasoline with the light switches. Well, as we continued around getting back to the front of the room, there was a countertop there, and on those countertops was a selection of newspapers. And so we could use the newspapers to read up on any current events or so, but they were spread out on the countertop for the community members to come in and see what was going on in the local scenarios. We finished up in the front of the room. There was a high top table, and on that high top table, everybody had put their jackets down. And so there were a pile of jackets that are on that front table that were being left there because we didn't need the jackets for the room. It was kind of hot out there, so we could sweat if we put those jackets on. And then, of course, the screen that was in the front of the room, there was a symphony orchestra just playing some gorgeous music that set the tone and the mood for the whole room of the day. And that was our loci. So what I loved about that is everybody just kind of shouted out what the rooms, what the items were. But then I did some more teaching and did a little bit more work. And wouldn't you know, about 40 minutes later, we went quickly back around the 13 objects in the room, and everybody was just snapped right in like a symphony chorus of people going through the astronaut and the tree and the frying pan and the athletic shoes. And we just went right around the 13 objects. And then I left them with, now you can go home and do this in your home. And you can make as many anchors as you want around the borders of your living room. You can use your kitchen. You can use your dining area. You can use your rec room. You've got plenty of rooms at your home that you can decide. A townhouse. In a townhouse, you've got similar rooms that you can use, a bedroom if you want to, and you can do as many anchors as you want and use this for your shopping. You can use this for any studying that you may be doing, for things you're trying to remember and texts that you're reading. But it was a really fun lunchtime. We did from 12 o'clock. We wrapped it up at about 1:45. I got a lot of good questions afterwards, and people asked about going from short term to long term and how do we do that in terms of our brain. But I really enjoyed the audience. I wanted to thank very much Greg and Kathy Fowler, who the folks that we know as friends that actually brought us into the community, and just enjoyed, had a lot of good energy, a lot of good feedback, and had a really good time. And one of my big challenges is, God, how do I take all this knowledge and give it to people so it can make a difference in their lives? And I think we've touched on some of those people today. So with that, it's Wednesday. We'll be back out here on Friday. Have a good rest of your week. We're at the midday, and we'll see you on Friday.